Today we are going to begin a new siman, siman Tuf Kuf Sadi Zayin. Why that siman? Very simple. If we zoom out on the halachas of Rosh Hashana, we will come to the conclusion that we successfully completed siman Tuf Kuf Pei Aleph, Pei Gimel, and Pei Daled. We skipped Pei Beis, which deals with Hamelech, meaning Hamelech in Shemona Esrei. And everything after that deals with shofar. What we are now going to attempt to do is everything after shofar, and hopefully we'll try to finish. There's around 8 simanim or so. Most of them are very short. We'll try to finish all of them, and if we successfully do so, then that will mean that in the period of the next 3 weeks or so, we will have completed 1%, a little over 1% of all of the simanim in Orach Chaim. Therefore, that will help extend our goal of finishing every single siman in Orach Chaim properly. Siman Tov Kuf Sadi Zayin needs really no introduction. What basically gets discussed in this siman is the essence, the heart of what is Rosh Hashana about. Because it focuses on the obligation to eat or their lack of. To pose one question for the introduction to the siman, one question would be, what is the obligation of eating on Rosh Hashanah, having a Suda? Should it be more of a lavish meal than Shabbos or less? Should it be like a Yom Tov meal or even more because it's Rosh Hashanah? That question, I would argue, many would be unable to answer.
We have the simanim now.
We have the simanim. The simanim are at night. That's correct. That is siman Tov Kuf Pei Gimel. Now we're talking about an actual meal, meat, wine, fish, delicacies, nice food. Should it be there or not? And the answer to this question taps into the essence of the day of Rosh Hashanah. What is Rosh Hashanah about? We already just touched upon this briefly. It's a happy time, a time of fear, it's a time of judgment. What exactly is Rosh Hashanah? The Tur begins the siman by saying, "Oichlim v'shoisin v'smeichim v'ein lesanos bo klal."
Wow, that's pretty straightforward.
Eat, drink, rejoice, don't fast at all. Then the Torah continues discussing, is there a difference between the first day, second day, Shabbos, could you fast, not? We'll see more details about that in the Shulchan Aruch as well. The Beis Yosef goes through a few sources over here. At the end of this short siman, the Beis Yosef quotes a very important aguda. Matsasi Kosov B'Shem Sefer Aguda. I found it was written in the name of the Sefer Aguda. Omnom ha'oichlin b'Rosh Hashana lo yoichlu kol seveim. Someone who eats on Rosh Hashanah should not fill the tank up completely, should not totally charge up. Don't eat until you're satiated. Laman lo yakilu roishem v'tiyeh yiras Hashem al paneihem. Don't eat when you're totally satiated, in order that you won't have a lightheaded head. The fear of Hashem on your face. We see from this that there's a different level of eating on Rosh Hashanah. The Bachets. Quotes over here that the Maharash Luria, I think that's Rav Shlomo Luria, Marshal. Shekibel Meziknoi is a tradition that he received from his Zaidi, his grandfather, Shlo Ochel Dogim B'Rosh Hashanah. He didn't eat fish on Rosh Hashanah. This is an interesting idea. Because we do have fish as one of the simanim. Some people have a custom to have the head of a fish. No, no, no. You can have the head of a fish. You didn't eat fish, the salmon and good fish. Why? Kedei lema'e taivos hanoishi b'mixus. In order to decrease his human desire, even slightly. Davar mitzuyim was something, v'yizkor yom adin. And he'll remember that it's the day of judgment, v'lo yavu lidei kalos rosh, and he will not come to a lightheaded state. In other words, we see from this the concept of not overindulging on Rosh Hashanah in order that we realize that this is a time that we get judged on everything. Mi yichya mi yamas. Who will be a chayla, who won't be? Who's going to lose everything this year and go bankrupt, who won't? Everything is getting judged over here on Rosh Hashanah. So you didn't have fish. I'd like to point out that this bach is really technically out of its jurisdiction.
What does that mean?
That means that this belongs in siman Tavkov Pei Gimel, which is where it's quoted. You go back, by the way, mark my words, to siman Tavkov Pei Gimel. You will see that this is quoted there.
What will pay again?
That's the siman. Okay, but it definitely ties into here. But if you really want to see something out of its jurisdiction, look at the continuation of the Bach. Kosav b'sefer Evan Shuv b'shem haRamban. It's really the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva. I don't know why it says Ramban. It's a Rambam. One of the most commonly quoted Rambams in all of Hilchos Rosh Hashanah. What does he say? The shofar is a spiritual alarm clock. Ki hasha'a svicha ara. We need to be awakened at this moment, as the pasuk in Amos states. You're going to blow a shofar and you're not going to be afraid. From here, the Yerushalmi says, you're not allowed to sleep in Rosh Hashanah. How could a person sleep on Rosh Hashanah when they're being involved with this judgment? If you sleep, that shows that you're lazy. Like the pasuk in Yoina says, what are you doing sleeping?
They're minimizing sleep.
Ram would sleep like on another Yom Tovim. We discuss this in depth and in length. Siman Tavkov Pei Gimel, all the exceptions, why you can sleep, when you could sleep, when does this refer to? We discussed it over there. Just wanted to relate the Bachas over here.
Did we quote this stuff?
Nah, because we didn't know it existed. Now we know it existed. But what is the Bach adding over here? The Bach doesn't add anything. We knew about this Rambam before. We knew about this Yerushalmi, which really can't be found in the current versions of our Yerushalmi, as we discussed over there in length. This is an interesting point. Sleep has to do with laziness, but that's Pashut Pshat, why you shouldn't sleep. So what's the Bach adding? Any questions, comments on anything that we did so far?
What does it mean when it says, obviously people have to sleep we minimize our sleep. We don't sleep in the afternoon. We don't. I'm sure there's people that stay up all night, but I'm saying, what does that mean?
That we discussed him in Tavkov Pei Gimel over there, what type of sleep we're referring to. We discussed that over there. Maybe it was death, right? Yeah, okay, that was a Chiddush Sapshat, yeah. Yeah.
On a practical level, it's very hard not to, fill yourself because you're starving by the time you get home, because you're not eating until 1:30, 2 o'clock.
So that's correct. So that's correct. So typically on a Shabbos, we start our Suda around 10:30, the latest. And the reason is I either go to a 7, 7:30, or 8. Usually 8. Recently, I'm going to 7. So you start early, you eat at a normal time. On Rosh Hashanah also, I daven Vasikin, so we start a similar time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but for most people out there who are davening not at a Vasikin minyan on Rosh Hashanah, then yes, it is definitely late. It is late.
That's one of the other right? That we said you shouldn't really be sleeping before midday.
Yeah, that was a discussion when to sleep. We discussed that over there. Fine. We will now go straight into the words of the Shulchan Aruch over here. At least we'll start. See where this takes us exactly. Like the Torah, the Shulchan Aruch says, "Oichlin v'shoisim v'smeichim b'misan Rosh Hashana." Eat and drink, rejoice, and we do not fast on Rosh Hashanah. Take a look over here at the Magen Avraham. Okay. Talk about not wearing very fancy clothing. That's what the Magen Avraham talks about over here. At the end of this Magen Avraham, quotes the Magem Misharim, who says that you shouldn't eat meat and drink wine on Rosh Hashanah. What does that mean? How are you going to do Kiddush? Don't drink wine on Rosh Hashanah. What this means, l'chayr, what pshat in this Magen Avraham, what pshat in this Magem Misharim is, don't overindulge. Similar to what he recently quoted before with the fish from the Marshal that we saw. Shana is not a time of wining and dining. Yes, we have a nice feast, but it's not going to be the fanciest feast of the year and that you're going to get shicker. Not a time to get intoxicated. This is Rosh Hashanah, Yom Hadin. Like the Medrash says by Yosef, Oy lanu Yom Hadin, Oy lanu Yom HaTochacha. It's a serious time.
This year we need a cholent this year.
What?
We need a cholent this year.
Yeah, okay. The Taz comes in over here and he says, Lanias daiti nira lachriya. Efshar loimer mitzvah lesanos. It's impossible to say that there's a mitzvah to fast on Rosh Hashanah. We'll see more about this in the Shulchan Aruch as we continue throughout the siman where this comes from, this Taz, that maybe there would be a mitzvah to fast on Rosh Hashanah. There definitely isn't. Why? Tematzinu gabe Alisha sha'achal eitzel hashunamis. We find that Elisha ate by tsunamis, and when did that event occur? V'oisa hayoim Rosh Hashanah haya. That happened on Rosh Hashanah. He's a Medrash, like it says in the Medrash. He quotes the Zohar, the Rayim Hemna, Parshas Pinchas, Reish Lamed Alf. Yeah, hayoim bi'avor Elisha l'sunam and Malachim oisa yom Rosh Hashanah haya. That episode happened on Rosh Hashanah. V'zoraya she'ein alei tshuva. It's a proof that cannot be questioned. The Taz over here is certainly getting the last word in. The Taz is saying there's nothing to talk about. How could one even have a hava meaning? It's impossible to entertain the possibility of fasting. We're going to see more about that in Siv Beis. Look at Siv Beis. Anyone who's regularly fasts on Rosh Hashanah should continue fasting. He does it every single year. We'll learn about that more the next session. So, question is, how do you answer the other opinion? How could we defend others? Rabbi Shlomo Kluger has a lengthy Chachma Shlomo over here, as you could tell on the screen. Okay? We'll call it the Luchos Chachma Shlomo. In my version of Shulchan Aruch, it's not Luchos, it's just wide lines that just keep going. Okay? Chachma Shlomo continues then over here, all the way on this glass, and just keeps going. Okay? As I said before, someone could dedicate his whole life to just reading everything the Chachma Shlomo wrote. He might not even finish it. Unbelievable how much Torah the Chachma Shlomo has. I'd like to summarize what he says on this point. He says, what the Taz is saying is not true. There's no proof at all from Elisha. Why? He says it's well known that fasting is instead of bringing a korban. Fasting is instead of bringing a korban. We fast. Why? Because of our inability to bring korbanos.
Also, our fats and our what's where we get little, just like on a carbon, fats get burnt up.
Maybe he doesn't mention that point. I made a mistake. It is luchos in mine also. He says, "Why do we fast? The fasting is instead of a korban, and then therefore, certainly at the time of the Beis Hamikdash, and we had korbanos, you didn't have to fast. Midaraisa, from the Torah, you didn't need to fast, and there's no prohibition. Therefore, person should rejoice. Person should rejoice. That's in the time when there was a Beis Hamikdash. Forget about fasting, you have the Korban. Conversely, nowadays that we no longer have the Beis Hamikdash, harabim, we don't have Korbanos. Now we could say it's a mitzvah to fast. Because the fasting will be instead of the Korban, and therefore the Taz doesn't apply. Taz is only talking about what? When the Beis Hamikdash is around, then you don't need to fast. Nowadays you would. The Chachma Shlomo then continues, and he says a little further, without a person believing that everything that Hashem does is right, we wouldn't be able to withstand the judgment and pass it successfully. Okay? And we need an act in order to actualize that. That's what Avram did. He withstood the test. Even though mentally Hashem knew that he could handle it, he needed to physically withstand the test. And therefore, if we eat and drink on Rosh Hashana, that will show that we have faith that our judgment will be successful. And that's the explanation of the Pasuk in Ezra. But if we fast on Rosh Hashanah, there's no simcha. We're not showing that we have bitachon and belief in Hashem. That's why, says the Chachma Shlomo, this Taz doesn't apply. Let's go back to the Taz very quickly because we only have a minute left. Don't say it's a mitzvah to fast. Because of this, no. That's the difference between the korban or not. Therefore, could very well be a mitzvah.
I understand how the two tie into each. How does the two tie into each other?
We're differentiating over here between. What's the story over here? He wasn't allowed to fast because they had korbanos.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we don't have the korbanos. Therefore, it could be that you could fast on Rosh Hashanah. However, you have this other idea over here that really you're supposed to be eating to show that you're going to be confident with the judgment.